Okay, I've washed the whole control valve up, and an interesting thing that I come across was on the end housings here, it's got that little up and down sign made in Italy. So, well, that gives me hope that it's a pretty good valve, really. It's not a Chinese one, so. I just got the CRC red lithium grease, so I'm just going to use that for assembly. Now, if you remember when I pulled it out, one of these fittings was loose, and when they screw into the housing here, we run out of thread, and the 11/16 spanner is too fat to come in under the fitting. So I've locked a couple of fittings together just to give us something to grab him by. Now, what happened with the fitting, it's had that Teflon tape. And look, back when I had the workshop and I had blokes working for me, I banned this stuff in the workshop. It wasn't allowed in there. Didn't matter what you were doing, it was not allowed. Use a bit of Loctite 515, something like that. We sent the flow meter away to be serviced one time, and around the little rotor inside it had a heap of Teflon tape, and that happened twice over the years, so it got banned. So we wouldn't let it in, grumpy bastard, eh? So look, all I'm going to do with it is a bit of Loctite 515, and by using 515 Loctite, or I actually use the Bearco R51, you can screw the fitting in. There's no chance of any little slivers of rubbish getting anywhere. You can see, because it's a tapered thread, you can see the build up on the end there. Then when we get it right up tight as we'd like to go, we can actually bring him right in, and I've just loosened that off, which I didn't really mean to do just yet. So we'll nip this fitting up again. It's a brass fitting, so it probably doesn't hold on real tight. Okay, so that's down firm, and that Loctite will, I'll just tidy my bench up here a little bit, that Loctite will set, that fitting won't leak again. So I will work through all these other fittings, and I can see down here around this fitting over the back there. I'll do them one at a time so I don't get our punch marks mixed up and things like that. But you can see the Teflon tape around all of these fittings. So yeah, we're going to glue them all in properly. But for the sake of the video at the moment, we won't get too carried away there. I will do that, but I'll just try and keep the video moving. So when we set the valve up towards the end there, now these O-rings that come out, I've actually got 4 brand new O-rings to go in there. Actually that one there is one. So the idea is just to slide them in, pop them down into the groove. Now we're looking for protrusion, so by feeling in there we're making sure that we can actually feel that the O-ring's sitting up above the surface here. So you need a bit of crush on the O-ring to get the valve to seal correctly. Yep, that feels good. Turn him around. Now this is the detent end, and the O-ring's a little further in here because the spool can travel further, as in, well, not travel further, but there's a little lip on the end of the control valve that can come out a little bit. I'll just come out a little bit wider, I think. And this one here. Not too far. Oh, come out of there. I put a little bit too far, now it's in the port. There we go. Sneaky bugger. Okay, that feels good. Now a little bit of the red grease. That's just to help the valve slide past the O-ring. So it doesn't want to, if it's dry, it can sort of catch a little bit. Beautiful. Okay, now the spools have to come in from the back here. You can see the detent housings there that we've cleaned up. So what I like to do with them is, I've been called out to jobs where the valve's been leaking one way or another because this screw has come undone. The fella in the end here. Now, there probably is a little circlip there, we can pull this apart further, but no need for our job. So just get a little bit of thread locker and just put a little dob Now this is for up to 1/4 inch bolts. So it's only a fairly light thread locker. It's not a big heavy retaining compound or anything like that. So we'll bring him in. Oh, next one. Now, okay. So all I'm doing is putting a screwdriver through the end here and nipping that up firm. And that will hold there now. So we know that when we're working around the paddock that won't come loose now. Just a dab of Loctite, you don't need much. Same here. There you go. Now on the front of the spool, you can see there's a slight chamfer there. Let's say we don't cut the O-rings going in, but I always run a little extra grease around all of these little spools, and probably half it gets wiped off, but anyway. And you don't want to force this, eh? You just, there we go. That's that one in. A little bit of grease just does not hurt. And just try and turn him in. It'll just go when it's ready. If you've got to hit that, chances are the O-ring's not in properly. And with the O-ring not being in properly, you're probably going to cut it. So we'll just put a little bit of grease around this spring here. And this is just to keep it lubricated and give it a bit of a covering against any rust, or if a little bit of moisture gets in there, it might help it out a little bit. So at this stage, to hold it all in place, there's no gaskets on those caps or anything. Get in there. There we go. Good bloody thing. There's the other one. Stop looking. Now, shed's starting to creak and crackle a little bit. Now with those spools are double acting spools. You can get a spool with a detent that you push the lever forward for a motor, running a hydraulic motor, and the motor will just stay running, it won't spring back. You can get one for a single acting cylinder, so you push the lever one way and it'll return the other, but it just gives an open port out the back there. So okay, I'll just tighten these up while I'm that little sign there. Yeah, I have seen that before somewhere. So anyway, I'll do my homework there, that's no worries. Now, what I decided to do was, with these levers, they go down, so with the valves in there you can turn the spool, there's no trouble lining them up, that's just fine, that's what we do. The little ball on the end of this fella here is rusted away a little bit on the dump and crowd. So I'm going to actually try and find the proper rubber boots and all that for here. But look, in the meantime, we're going to pop some grease in there to lubricate it all. A little bit in the hole there. And as we come in, put the knob forward and you'll feel it locate. And once it locates, you're ready to rock and roll. I might bring my very expensive bloody prop back into the fray. And same with this one, you put the ball right forward after you put a bit of grease in there. I'll probably put a bit of grease around the top here too, so in the meantime, if any dirt or anything like that comes along, it can't actually get down past the ball into the socket there. So that goes in, and as you push it in, you can see the ball go forward into the neutral position. Another one here. Now you may have noticed I pulled the relief valve out. No need, but I just thought while I'm here, I'm just going to show you. I thought it's an opportunity to show you and to have a little chat about it. I'll nip them up. There we go. Okay, so on the outlet of the valve here, This is where this fitting went, which is the return to sump fitting. This is where this plug was. Now, this plug is what makes this valve closed centre. So the oil comes up, it comes and hits the end here, it can't get past this O-ring and return to sump. So between this O-ring and that O-ring, you have the track that goes down through there between the two valves there. So if this was just a blanking plug, and say you pull this plug here and just put it in there, well, that would make it an open centre valve. The oil would come in and flow around. I have put a new O-ring on this. It took a little bit of finding the O-ring. It was just a bloody funny size. So that there stops the flow of oil and makes this valve closed centre. Might fold this up a little bit. It looks like a bloody octopus. Right, so that's nice and tight. Now the main big fitting, whatever, oh, bloody well done with it. God, I hate that when you put something somewhere and then you can't find it. Stop looking. No, I got it. So, TATA 515 there, being a parallel thread. And get the trusty shifter, the fit all. Well, I'll just pop it in the vise here for a second. Oh, there we go. Okay, so that's been tightened up, proper tight. Now the only other thing really we have left is the main relief valve. Now I've got bits, I had it all nice and tidy here, believe it or not. Okay, so the relief valve, as the oil comes in here, it goes in past the seat of this valve here and uses that surface area there to, the surface area will help lift this valve off and let flow go back to sump safely. So with the valve, you have a valve, that's where the oil is at this end, the spring goes there. You have this little fella here, it locates the spring and there's an O-ring around there and that seals, and the adjusting screw here goes on the end of that spring, and that's how you adjust the pressure of the valve and decide whether it opens, at what pressure it opens. But as we're in closed centre, we don't need to worry too much. So that's the outside of the cartridge, so we just need, we need a little bit of grease just to help this O-ring go in. And it goes in with the tit up. And oh, go in there. There we go. That goes down there. You can see that spring. The spring holds that tit right against the back here. Then this fella goes in. And you can see that this fella here, there's a copper washer inside, is held in place with this fella here. that holds the seat, and this actually lets the poppet move. So pop a little bit of grease on that O-ring again. And in we go. That must be 3/4, is it? 3/4 close enough. Right, that's tight enough, and the O-ring should seal that anyway, and then this little fella here, he screws in. Does this fella fit? Oh, look at that. There might be a little bit of grease on there as well. Keep everything lubricated. It's just a little bit of grease is a good thing. Saves a lot, probably. And you can see there, and actually this nut here, I left the nut on here so I knew where the setting was, so it saved me mucking around a little bit. But I'm just starting to get a little bit of spring tension there. So being a closed centre valve, this has to be, we want the John Deere hydraulic pump, and that's locked up. Actually, it's not quite. Bring him back a little bit. I can test for that later just to make sure. But you can, and look, there's nothing wrong with jamming that up tight. You have no secondary relief. And the thing is, you can use these as a secondary relief valve. But, oh, you know, it's a bloody old loader, so no big deal. Right tool for the right job, I always say. I don't do it, I just say it. Okay, so that's about it. Now, these levers here, they can go back in. Actually, I'll leave them out for the moment. I'll put the top on the grease when I work out what I did with it. There we go. That'll keep him clean. And yeah, before it goes back on, I probably won't film putting it back on, but I might film it when it's working. Just make sure it's got no leaks or anything like that, which I doubt that it will have now. That feels good. You can feel that coming back to neutral. This one with the ball, it's a little rusted. You can still see that movement there, apart from building that ball up. But and look, that's an option. We can build that ball up if we choose to, but I'm hoping to find a supplier of this valve and put proper boots on it. If they have a kit for this end, I'll just buy a kit. Or if it's just boots, I might weld that end up. But look, that it doesn't really worry me that bit. I was going to pop a bit of grease in around the top of these fellas. And when I put the tractor back outside into the carport where she lives now, I will wrap that up so no moisture can blow in. Normally the other side of the tractor, the left hand side of the tractor, is the part that's open to the weather, so no big deal. So there you go, that's resealing. Now I'll pop the end out of that. That's resealing this control valve. There's nothing to them. Yeah, we'll try and find the correct rubbers for here, and they'll last many years again. and I have no idea of the history. This is the tractor I bought in a heap of pieces, with the high, low end pieces and all that, and put together in the John Deere 1640 series. So, look, that's about it. Next time you see it, it'll be on the tractor, or yeah, I'd say we'll give it a start up. We'll clean it up out there and just make sure we haven't got any leaks. But I do want to deal with all these first, but there's no use filming all that. Okay, there you go.